5-minute closing remarks from our debaters. And David, we can begin with you.
Well, I'd like to thank Sammy for his participation here, and thank everyone for the good questions and for sticking through a 2-hour debate. It's good. What else could we be doing that would be more important than this tonight? But I think we have two views on the table. There are other alternatives out there, but the positions that are on the table for our consideration tonight, we have two. And according to one, God is perfect in justice, perfect in mercy, and must punish all sin, but is willing to do anything, to whatever it takes, to forgive us. And the solution to retain those perfect attributes is that he voluntarily pays the price for sins. And Muslims have a tremendous problem with this, but again, I mean, think what you'd be willing to do. If you were walking down the street, well, suppose you were king of the world. Suppose you were master of the world, you were dressed in royal robes, and you're walking down in the street and you see your kid drowning in a filthy pool of mud. Would your royal robes matter to you? Wouldn't you do whatever it takes? Wouldn't you toss those robes aside and jump in and save the child that you love? Of course you would, and that's your love. That's your finite, limited love. Imagine what a being who is perfect and infinite in love, what would that being be willing to do? I say whatever it takes. And that's what we find in Christianity. And the Muslim wants to say, well, God doesn't need to do that. Well, if he doesn't do that, then sin gets swept under the rug, and then he's not perfectly just. So how does God do that? Well, I find no answer in Islam, but I find an answer in Christianity. So we have God's perfect attributes being retained in Christianity. We have a message that fits with all of the evidence that we have, a message about someone dying on the cross for sins, rising from the dead, and claiming to be divine. All of our early evidence fits with this position. And think about it, according to Christianity, God had a mission for Jesus. God was completely victorious. Jesus came into the world, completed his mission perfectly. Jesus was completely victorious. He chose followers who would carry this message fearlessly. They were completely victorious. They went to their bloody deaths and would not back down. That's the message of Christianity. God is victorious from beginning to end. God is glorified from beginning to end. And then our Muslim friends tell us, but there's the alternative. Jesus didn't die by crucifixion. Allah tricked people into believing it. That's where that view arose. But the Apostle Paul came along later and corrupted other parts. So it wasn't Allah corrupting it by himself. He had a partner in crime. He's had the Apostle Paul also deceiving. Actually, that's not much better. Because think about the implication there. God sends Jesus into the world. Jesus spends all these years, and according to Islam, Jesus started preaching at birth. So he started preaching for 30 years. And then Allah comes down, tricks Jesus' followers into believing that he died by crucifixion, and then just can't protect his message from the Apostle Paul. God sends Jesus into this world. The work doesn't get done. Jesus doesn't accomplish anything that lasts. Muhammad has to come along 6 centuries later to fix the mess created by Allah and the Apostle Paul. And you put all of this together, what happened in the first century? Nothing. You ended up with the largest false religion due to Allah's deception and the Apostle Paul's deception. And God wasn't victorious. Jesus was a miserable failure. His followers couldn't protect the message from the Apostle Paul or Allah. This is the alternative. This is the alternative, where we have one view that glorifies God. He's victorious from beginning to end. We have another that portrays Allah, God as a deceiver, and Jesus as a miserable failure. Even if we had no evidence on the table, even if we had no evidence to support either view, we'd have to choose the Christian view just in light of the theology involved. And when we add to the fact that every shred of evidence we have tells us Jesus claimed to be divine, that he died on the cross for sins, and that he rose from the dead, and so we have all of the evidence confirming Christianity, I don't think we have any reasonable choice than to conclude that the message of Jesus Christ is found in the documents of the New Testament. That is the only way to be faithful to God, is to believe in the message that has been preserved right now.
Thank you, David.